we are going to be talking about people, purpose, policies, programming, progress. Full transparency. I did this thing last year. I don't know what I was really thinking with this, except that I think supervision, we can talk about it in a lot of different terms, right? And so we're going to hit a couple key ones and then get down to the nitty gritty for you guys on what you need to do on a monthly basis. So supervising people, right? So first and foremost, you guys are supervising your staff, right? So and I picked up these. I wish I had the location that I found these this information from, but I'm fairly certain it's something from Elias. But I pulled this out and it made a whole lot of sense to me, right? The quality of the organization's work can be defined as the extent to which it meets the needs of those who require its services, right? Staff skills, motivation, relationships with the DSPs are key elements in determining quality of service, right? So as much as you pour into your staff, that is such a key element of quality, right, of your programs. Not telling you anything you don't know. Training not only decreases DSP turnover, but can also increase the confidence and self-efficacy, right? That belief in yourself that you can do it of DSPs, and as a result, the quality of the services they provide. So putting some weight into training there and spending time with staff, right? That can be a really, key element to supervision. Agencies that implemented this ongoing staff development also had a significant reduction in the instances of abuse and neglect among the people with IDD they supported. Right? So you're seeing the more time you pour into staff, the less abuse and neglect are going on. These are statistics. Like I said, I can find the report for you if you're interested. And it should be recognized that ongoing staff development is an investment, not only in the quality of services and supports DSPs provide to people with IDD, but also to the DSPs themselves, right? Susan and I have often talked about, we want our direct support staff to do this or that, but these things might be out of their league, right? Maybe no one's ever helped them discover what their goals are, right? So we certainly understand that and recognize that you guys as supervisors, as managers of your programs, you got a ton of things that you got to do, right? And supervising staff is one of those, and one of those very important things. So I thought those were neat benefits there. So what is the purpose of supervision, right? The purpose of supervision for our individuals supported, right? Ensuring staff maximize the opportunities for our individuals served or supported to receive services in integrated settings, to realize the benefits of community living, and to experience a meaningful life, just overall increasing their quality. At the end of the day, no matter if we're writing about goals or not, that's what supervision is. You're making sure that your staff are making sure that the individuals we support are having these opportunities, right? Overall, as an agency, monitoring and maintaining an ethical service delivery system. I know every single one of you who are on here want this for your agency, right? You want great quality services. You want an ethical service delivery, and you want everyone to be safe and avoid risk and of course, avoid compliance issues, right? So that's another purpose of the supervision and why it's so important. And then again, like we talked about, purpose of supervision for staff in the previous slide, providing skill development, helping staff learn, helping them become better at managing themselves and managing the folks around them, motivating them, and providing quality relationships. I know you guys are doing a lot. I want to talk about at the end what you might be doing in September for DSP month. I think that would be fun to hear what people are putting in place. But it's so important to support that staff because goodness knows that the turnover is nationally high, and here as well. We're up there with that piece. So purpose there, rolling right through. So what are we talking about with policies, right? DHHS and OIDD. That is us. If you do not know, we're the Office of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Woo! That is our new name. So if you're just now joining in, OIDD, that's the formerly known DDSN agency.
Okay.
OIDD. Yep. So, DHHS, right? You guys know, you've seen our gestures and our acts as we provide in-person training of season 9. We've got our federal agency CMS. CMS says DHHS in South Carolina is going to be the holder of the monies, and DHHS says DDSN, disabilities, you guys be the oversight, right? So what does it look like right now with DHHS and supervision, right? DHHS requires OIDD to establish the post-payment review process to ensure the integrity of provider billing for Medicaid payment. Now, if you guys have not been through a post-payment review, don't worry, don't fear. It's going to be okay. I've had very positive comments about it. Not that, I think it's different from Alliant, but I'll tell you this, and we've said this before at training in case you don't know. DHHS has let us train the post-payment reviewers, right? So they're with us in our program side of things. So we love that because what we're telling you is what we're telling them, and what they learn is what we're teaching, right? So everybody's on the same page with that. Post-payment desk reviews are at least every 3 years. Reviewers will be looking for sufficient documentation to support that service was delivered through the ISP service logs. And like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about those specifics a little bit later on. I will tell you this, that the reviewers, the post-payment reviewers want you to succeed. They want to give you every opportunity to find something to back what you've got going, right? Like I said, if you haven't had a post-payment review, always ask your lead, whoever the lead is for that post-payment review. Stay in contact with them. They're really open, and they really, from what I understand from providers, that, they're given every opportunity for you to fill in a blank if it's not filled in or they can't find it. A little bit different with Alliant, right? So I was pleased to hear all that feedback from other providers. And at the end of the day, right, you've heard us say this a million times, attendance does not equal service provision. So post-payment review, there's not much that can be done when ISP data is missing, right? Because your attendance log is not going to suffice for billing at this point. I feel like I'm rushing. Anybody got thoughts, questions, anything? I cannot see faces, so somebody help me if there's anything, because these crazy screens. Unmute. Okay. All right. So that's DHHS. And what about us? What are we doing, and where can you find guidance on supervision based on OIDD? And I'm going to keep saying DDSN, y'all. I'm trying. In the career prep standards, which should be very similar in everyday services standards besides employment, right? But you should have these numbers. Probably group may not be the same numbers either, guys, but in the day services standards, the career prep standards, you will find these particular numbers, and this is where we pull our supervision guidance, right? So number 11, staff/anyone contracted provide direct support should routinely be exposed to information regarding training resources and opportunities, right? Supervisors should be working with staff to identify annual personal and professional goals, right? That goes back to that first slide about the benefits of good supervision to staff, right? When your staff get better, when the leader gets better, everybody gets better, right? And everybody's got a boss, We all know everybody's got a boss. So one of the things I'm just thinking about these trainings, we have tossed around the idea of actually putting on this same topic, so to speak, at a different time on the same day. I don't know. I would love to know in the comments section if people thought that more DSPs could join on certain topics. For example, we've got trauma-informed care coming up. Would love for people working directly with people, that have been exposed to trauma, which is just about everybody. But it looks a lot different, I think, for our folks with disabilities. I'd love for other people to be able to come as well. And I know schedules, people are running routes to get people home and things like that. So I know it's not convenient, but I would love to know if you guys felt like doing this slideshow, whichever topic it was, from the 12 to 1 hour, but also maybe the 3 to 4 hour or something like that on the same day once a month would be helpful. So if you would just record that in the chat, I'd greatly appreciate that. We're just trying to figure out how we can provide support to you guys as managers and also to your staff, so that takes a little bit off of you. If you can say, hey, go sit in on Becky and Susan's training for day, or residential. I had the same thing going on for residential. So I'm trying to think about those things, how we can engage more of your folks, right?
Excuse me, Becky.
Yes.
The other thing that we've talked about regularly is, if you have a really cool tool, if you have a really cool idea that has been really a benefit to your staff, please don't hesitate to share that, because people are pretty desperate for support. And we throw out things, but since we don't try them out, your feedback is really appreciated. So thank you.
I love that. Yes. Okay, so moving on, number 27 in the standards, right? For each unit of service reported, documentation in the ISP must be present to show activity, training, supports received on the day the service was provided, right? There are no more days where you cannot have documentation in a narrative form to support attendance at the program. Right? We got to have that. So you as a supervisor, that's one of the things you're looking for, right? Making sure that there's documentation each day. Number 30, monthly supervision provided by a non-billable monthly entry made by the program director or the designee, right? If you've got someone that really oversees a program, it can be somebody else that you designate. In the log, or in the log, it should note the progress and or recommendations, right? And that can be done in the ISP log, or do it the way we used to do it with the clinician report. There is no problem with that. If it's working, that is fine. But it should be done monthly as a supervision role, right? And when monitoring the individual's goals, their satisfaction with the progress must also be considered, right? You've got somebody that really hates doing what they're currently doing, and those ISP notes show that, it's time for maybe a change. And that's where a supervisor could come in and amend the plan, right? And talk with staff and say, it really appears they don't want to do that. And we'll talk about some specifics and how to even measure progress in just a few minutes too. So just giving you an overview here. So yes, number 31, supervisor must ensure that all billable units of day service provided be added to the day services logs by the 7th business day, right? There's some information in the standards, if you go looking, that still refers back to DSAL. You guys know we're not doing that, so disregard all that information about DSAL. But notes should be in a timely manner. I know some agencies require it to be done that day. So go with your agency policy. Just know Medicaid gives us a little bit longer of a time frame. You guys who have anything to do with case management out there know that you can't get paid after 7 days with a case note that's put in late, right? So whatever you did, if you put it in 7 days later in your case management, you don't get paid. I don't see day services going that way. And also what I want to say to you all is that when we have looked, you guys are putting notes in a very timely manner. So I think that that's great and should be said out loud. So questions, thoughts about what's written up in standards for supervision? Susan, any additions there you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything. I do think it's an area that post-payment review, at least when it comes to employment, looks at to make sure that we're really trying to help people move forward with the final rule. But in general, I don't think anything
Yeah.
specific that you didn't already address.
Okay. So let's talk about it specifically, right? The programming of it, monitoring the service delivery, right? So assessments and plans. I know that each of you guys might do things a little differently. I know that some agencies have documentation specialists that do all of this. But whoever is looking from the supervision eyes, right, needs to make sure that things are uploaded to the system. Right. And I would put that if I were supervising, I would put that on one person to make sure, that everything is uploaded into TheraApp. Some of you guys have filled up your doc storage, certainly understandable. Move on to attached files or flip flop the two, right? Alliant knows to look in attached files first and then move to document storage, but we certainly recognize that there's been storage issues inside of TheraApp. So yeah, there's that. So uploading assessments and plans is a big deal from the supervision eyeballs, right? Goals on the plan. Somebody should be looking at the goals, right? Making sure goals fit the service that's authorized. Makes sense, right? A community goal is not something that necessarily you're doing inside the facility all the time, right? Your goals should match the service. And I have in this PowerPoint, which you guys will get, use it if you want to. If you don't, that's fine too, with a real quick snippet of what some the core activities of each service are, right? So you want to make sure the service fits the authorization. Should be based on what the individual wants to be doing during the day, right, at the program. Their strengths, their preferences, their likes, or something they might like to learn about, right? Gone are the days that, they failed on tying their shoes, so we're going to teach them to tie their shoes when they only wear slides. Not doing it. The activities towards the goals should be logical and meaningful towards those things. For example, career prep should be focused on exploring employment, not learning a new hobby, right? You can do that in day, right? Or out in the community if you're doing a new hobby in the community. Goals can be very simple. Susie wants to look for jobs outside. Sally wants to learn to be a better friend. Don't worry about technical. Don't worry about misspellings, y'all, when you're looking at stuff. It's okay. If you as a supervisor can read it, somebody else can. Right? So make sure someone's looking at plans, and then progress should be examined monthly, right? And what happens when there is the lack of participation or progress after 3 months? You should go ahead and amend, talk with the individual, say, maybe exposure, right? I know that I've heard from a lot of you that sometimes you just don't know what somebody wants to do, whether it be because they don't use words to talk, or it's just hard for them to define, or whatever the reason is. You as staff or you as the manager don't know. Just expose, right? Help them to be exposed to different things in their life. And you never know, because we don't know what we don't know, right? We don't know what we might like. Who knew I'd like chickens as much as I do? But I do. I really like chickens, but until a family member exposed me to chickens, I didn't know. I had no idea. I might have even said I was scared of them. Okay. So even with your staff, keeping that in the back of your mind too, staff may not have been exposed to things. So having them help someone dream might be hard as well. So I know that it's a difficult one when I've heard folks say a couple of different people just want to sit outside and smoke. And I get that, you know, but continuing to expose people is where we need to be if it's difficult. Okay. Thoughts, questions, uploading goals and plans, progress. ISP documentation. Susan, you want to take this? I feel like I'm
I
motor
can.
mouthing.
Oh, you're good. I can. Basically, that you want to not change the title of the service log. There's a lot of service logs out there. You want to use the one that DDSN created. You can do that honestly, because if you do it, it helps you as a supervisor when Becky gets to how can you easily look at things to monitor. So, that's one of the reasons you don't want to change it, because it will help your life and make it much easier. You want to be able to put unit 1 and unit 2. You want exact program times. So if somebody sprains their ankle 10 minutes before your program started, but you were providing, supports for them and telling them not to, to tie their shoelaces or whatever, you really want documentation that you are still providing supports for that person. Let's just say someday when the dust settles, we start billing for hour units or 15-minute units or something. You would want to be paid for that 15 minutes. So you want exact times and not program times. Another thing that you can look up on the pivot table is exactly how many minutes you have billed. So you know whether or not you have 120 for one unit, and you know whether or not you have 360 for both units. When it comes to the career prep or the community day or support center, you want to make sure to put these words in the location. Those are your drop-down options. Work, if they're getting some sort of paid work experience. Other, if they're in the community. And both, if they've done one unit of one and one unit of the other. Now, mind you, one of the questions that DHHS has asked Becky and I is, how do you know for sure that they're getting 50% of the time on curriculum? And the reason that we can say that is because we can run an Excel table and look at your other, that they got an entire unit or an entire day of curriculum included in career prep. And let me just specify, they don't want your curriculum to be while you're doing paid experiences. They consider that two entirely different things. So someone has said to me, well, while they're doing this, that, and the other thing, we're telling them how important it is, and we're talking about where else they might want to work. I get that, but that's not how DHHS designed the program. So I'm just putting it out there that the reason that they have, that's important to do. I'm all for you doing it. I just want you to be sensitive that in terms of what their description of the service is, they're thinking that you're exposing them to different types of work, you're building resumes, you're talking about interviewing skills. That's what they're considering other. Or both is, of course, if you do work in the morning and then, something about curriculum in the afternoon or vice versa. In community, they want to make sure that half the time the person's in the community. So, are they going on some sort of, are you going to the senior center to participate? Are you going to Habitat for Humanity and volunteering? This is a great place to volunteer. Also in career prep we are really, really underutilizing volunteering. Just as a side note, they're already set up. They're a great way to put some sort of rhythm into somebody's life, and it gets them out of the building, which is what is the focus of the final rule. So I don't think anybody has any questions, but if you do, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. But you want to put that because we are asked, what percentage of time are people spending on various different things. And honestly, a couple years ago when that happened, we had to say we had not heard from this provider, and this provider, so we couldn't furnish those numbers. We don't like to do that. So we would just as soon you put your little locations in. And that's actually something you can see when you're running a pivot table for supervision if somebody's confused
Right.
about it. You know, it's a real easy way to go, oh, Sally, she's struggling with that. Let me talk to Sally. So
And
anything else, Miss Beck?
yes, I see you're leaving the hard one for me. But
Which
just so
one?
you know, if you go to the community at all, let's say you go out to the
Oh,
park and plan a picnic and you're out there 30 minutes and it starts raining, that is community for that day. We don't have a both in there. So it is community. So if you go out at all, it's community. Does that make sense to everybody? And I think I
and
saw
the other thing is
Destiny with her hand up.
when you're doing community, if you can engage them in the planning process and you can engage them in feedback about the experience, one of the things, as you know, that our folks lack is the ability to plan. They don't know how to plan. They don't know how to call a friend and make a plan to go to the mall or go to the park and walk. They don't know how to do that. So that is all a part of your community. And there's lots of ideas in the standards about things you can do if you run dry on ideas. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean to leave that for you, Becky. Sorry.
It's okay. So, okay, when 2022, when we got all of these standards across the line, right? We're doing training and we realized it was a heavy lift for you guys. And for the most part, y'all, I mean, everything looks so good. It is so much more information in that HHS can read about, that we can read about, that we can talk about, that you guys are doing now. But we talked about, you know, not every single day do you have to work on the goal, right? I've got a little sheet that says, so you're having a party, because I've had so many questions about what do we do when we have a party? What do we do when we go to Special Olympics? What do we do when we do it? Do we build? Do we build? Yes, please build. Please build. You know, there's a couple of little things you can't build for, and we'll talk about that too. And it's all related to what you as supervisors are doing, right? Or what the supervisor needs to do. But if you're supporting them, it doesn't really matter. So, and I really know that you want us to tell you how many times a week should you be working on the goal. But guess what? We're not going to do that, right? We cannot tell you that. What I want to say is you as the supervisor should be monitoring the activities related to the person's goal. If you as a supervisor, and like I said, we'll talk about how to measure the progress a little bit, but if you as a supervisor can tell if progress is being made and can stand behind it, you're good, right? But if you as a supervisor see this goal of working on making friends and activities are not geared towards that for Sally, there may be a problem, right? And it may be that DSPs just don't know what to write or remember what the goal is. We recognize that that is a problem. When you go in, you don't know, unless you have a separate notebook, necessarily what someone's goals are. So I know all the things surrounding it, but as a supervisor, you should be making sure that the activities that are happening during the program, weekly, monthly, whatever, are related to the goal. ISP service logs. Y'all, I am not telling you have to go into there daily. The required monitoring, as you can see on the screen, is monthly. Okay. But recently I've been talking to some providers and they're like, well, we've had to go back to daily because we've found holes, right? We found holes where documentation has been skipped. Something like that has happened and it became more frequent for this provider. So daily, I put daily in there just to give you an idea. I want you guys as supervisors to come up with your plan. I've got a couple of samples of things that I can send your way if you really want something. But I'm sure that you probably already have something in place. So this is a review. But you know, we're here to help you. So whatever we've got here, we want to give it to you so you don't have to recreate the wheel. And I also love to share, like when you guys share with me, I like to share out. I don't share names, but I like to share out things since we don't have our counterparts anymore, right? So um, I love to have these little nuggets of information that I can say. So that's where the daily came from. Making sure that there are notes in there. Um, and I think we've talked about all the others, just showing what kind of training or activity or just support, John's dog died. So John is not doing anything that week for you guys. You guys are providing grief therapy, right? I mean, that's what you're going to be doing. So what supports? It's not always about the activity or training, but it can just the support that was required that day of staff and how that worked out for John. So monthly review, obviously you're monitoring the individual's satisfaction with their progress towards the outcomes. Have activities been done towards helping that person, exposing them to activities that might bring them closer to meeting that goal? And again, like we've said a couple of times, if there's no participation or progress, it's probably time to look at amending, right? Which is also another role of supervision here. Reasons for amending may include, but are not limited to, the activity is no longer appropriate. Hey, they learned to crochet, they're done. They really wanted to start a crochet club, and they did, and now they're making washcloths, right? And selling them. So whatever, right? It's good. Amend the goal, take it off. The activities no longer support progress, and the individual's employment goal or life situation has changed. Just things happen, right? So you'll want to just tune into that as the supervisor. Couple of simple review forms that I've used when I've just been trying to do really quick desk reviews for you guys. The other thing is, I want to offer you, I have a little link. You can hop on my calendar. If you are new to supervision and new to monitoring or new to whatever, just want a refresher, I will sit with you, or Susan will sit with you and look at your agency's stuff. And we'll just say, hey, gosh, that looks great. Yep. Location is great. Unit labeling looks great. Not sure why AM and PM is in there. But exact times look great. Or, it looks like this staff is trending with this, and we could do it together. So we're here for you, right? A lot of times though, from this side of things, plans aren't updated. So I can do sort of a semi-quality review, but I can't really tell if the activities are related to the plan, to the goal that's on the plan, right? Because plans and assessments haven't been uploaded. So remember that little piece, right?
Becky?
Yes.
Let me just note that, in terms of the Alliant reviews that we have gotten in the last 6 to 9 months, and if you've gotten a call from me, because you've gotten a ding, this, and it's not new information. Most of it, quite honestly, are administrative things. They're not that you're not doing your ISP documentation correctly. It may be that a plan wasn't uploaded or an assessment or whatever, but much of the information that we are hearing about is administrative. So that's really a good sign. Yeah, that's a good sign to us. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about progress, right? How are you measuring it? In our book, right? In our book, any baby step towards encouraging them to learn something new related to that goal, watching a video about something new, or about what they want to learn about, any of that is progress, y'all. What progress does not look like is like flat out, do not want to watch a video. I don't want to get healthy. I'm not going to take that walk. That is not progress. But I don't want to walk for 20 minutes, but I'll go for 5 because I'm working on my health goal. That's progress. We're not looking for perfection. We're not looking, some of your goals might be long-term goals, right? So it might be that it takes a year right, to be on one goal. And you're working on that through all these different things if you make it a general goal, such as health. I mean, I say it all the time, but I'm about halfway, 50% on a health goal, right? I'm not even 80%, I'm about 50%. Every other day I want to work on health, and every other day I do not work on health. Right. So think about it in terms of your own life and what progress would look like. I mean, if I went and got a book on exercise, then you know what? I've made a small, tiny bit of, doesn't mean I've done it, but I got a book on it, right? So think about it in those terms. I use this as an example because, like I said, a lot of folks call and say, "Can we bill for going here or there?" Because I don't know what it looks like compared to their goal. In our minds, right? You've got goals for learning transportation, career habits, job seeking. Obviously, this is a career prep, right? So you've got an authorization for career prep, and here's, could be some of the goals related to career prep, right? And you're going to the fair, you're going to the state fair to have fun. So transportation, what are you doing? You're talking about the parking, no any bus stops. You're riding. They might ride in the front seat, in the passenger seat, so that they can see. And you talking about street signs and all of those things related to them becoming more independent in getting around. Successful career habits, right? You ordered food, you talk about how the vendors provide customer service, what job duties, how they might have to clean up, all those things. These are all things that could be done on a trip to the fair. Job seeking skills and tools, more discussions about jobs, the janitorial positions. There's animals there, what they have to do for that. Bathroom monitor, security. What would they like to do if they were at the fair? What jobs do they see? All of this could feed into that trip and it become an enhanced experience, and not just, certainly it's going to have fun. Obviously, money management is a big one because the state fair will take your whole paycheck that week. I mean, seriously. So, budgeting before you go. How much can you spend? Money management might be in all the services. Who knows? Because that's a big deal. If Johnny is looking forward to buying a TV, but also goes to the state fair, you got to talk about it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. What I am telling you is make sure you're billing for all the times that you're taking people out and supporting folks. BHDD-OIDD does not want you to provide services for free, ever. Okay? Personal responsibility, same. Talking about safety, not talking to strangers. Don't buy, your buddy behind you some French fries. Like, just include all of that.
Do make sure that you do put in something that's related to a goal. Because we have seen somebody take somebody out for refreshment and they didn't get, and they got challenged on it. And all we said was, all you had to do was talk about, what do you need to do to be able to work at this particular place? What skills might you need? What kind of safety things? Like 7 minutes, talk about the job rather than just go and have a good time. And they would have been fine. But, so make sure you build that into the activity, is all Becky's trying to tell you.
That's right. All of this
is giving you a heads up.
Yes. Post-payment will look at that, y'all. Alliant, not so much. And I'm not aware that they have ever looked at it, but post-payment is sort of they think they're really smart now, and they're trying to put the two together. So they will also come ask us things like, can we see that this goal what have they missed? Can we see that the goal has been worked on that during that month for supervision? So be aware that is something that they're looking at. Moving forward as supervisors, what should you be doing? What do you want to do? And you probably already have a plan. So again, this is extra stuff here. Establish what you'll be monitoring. Pick out what's important, how you're going to look at it, develop the plan, right? Some folks say, well, we've got so many people in the day program. So you do, A through F the first week, G through whatever the second week, third week you're monitoring, so that you're getting in that monthly monitoring, but it's not everybody on the last day of the month, right? Think through some of that. Provide feedback and encouragement to the DSPs regarding documentation. You know, I mean, you got to start somewhere, especially your new guys. Give them some grace, help them through it. Note that you might not have to have a training on documentation for everybody. Maybe it's just one person that has some trends that they need to take care of or that you need to assist with. Pinpoint the areas of improvement and help DSPs that need this additional support. Sorry, y'all, I'm running. I did not know this was this long. Okay. Reports to use. You've got a ton of tools. I'm going to show you the Therap how-tos on the next slide, but here's a couple of reports that you could use. The attendance billing summary report. It can identify individuals that were billed for a specific week, helpful in checking that documentation has been billed for daily, right? If you don't see the documentation for a week, you know, in the billing, and you guys would know this better than me, because like Susan said in the beginning, we haven't run a lot of these types of things and haven't used some of these reports. So, you know, obviously that might be a good report. Hopefully it hasn't changed. I've noticed that, Susan and I have noticed that Therap has changed reports without letting us know. But regardless, ISP data search from the individual homepage. Susan talks about pivot tables. There's a service authorization search. Little side note there, make sure your authorizations aren't running out. If you look at them and you have a plan in place 2 weeks before and you have someone that is traditionally not good with getting you authorizations on time, you know what to do. Reach out to us. We will track the people down. We will get it for you so that you do not have to turn someone away from the day program, which, by the way, I know you guys don't do anyway, so you're just not going to get paid. So let's not let that happen. We're here. We are here for that for you. Okay. There's a
Becky,
report about, yes.
one other thing before we get away too much from the ISPs.
Yeah.
One other comment that the post-payment people have said to me regarding the employment, because they did kind of wanted to become familiar with employment about 6 months ago. So they pulled individuals from every single provider. It really wasn't to, at this point, hold the providers accountable. It was for them to become familiar with the employment data. But they're like, do not write the same comment for the same person. Do not write the same comment every day. Like, I could look at the ISP and they basically had taken the same summary and plopped it down 4 different times and changed just like 2 words. They see it. They literally are going to run a clinician report. They're going to look at every entry. We had people that we were writing on Sally's and the note was for Joe, you know? So just make sure that it's individualized and it's not the same thing every day, because at least when it came to employment, they challenged me as to why that was happening in employment. So I just kind of want to give you that heads up. We don't want you to have the same issues.
Point. Yeah, that's a great point. And like, for example, you know, you all are on a trip and you're going to the same place, but everybody acts differently at that place, right? Or you're going to an event. No one acts the same. No one's doing the same things. Someone loves it, someone hates it. We know this, right? Someone has a different reaction. So make sure everything looks different each day. If you have an idea of a report that you think would be helpful that does not exist, let us know that. We are happy to put in and help think through and, you know, get a new report for us if it would be helpful. We want that. We want to make things as easy as possible for you guys when running reports to supervise. On the portal, the Therap how-tos are located on the portal now. So we used to say South Carolina homepage. Now we moved everything to the portal because Therap actually ended up redoing all of our reports and we could not count on their accuracy. Okay, so we put everything of ours onto the portal under DDSN Business Tools Forms, and you'll see Therap how-tos, and these are all the reports there that you can access, and they're very, very simple because, you know, Susan and I, we use big arrows, and it's very simple because we don't work in IT. So there is that. Few other reminders. Obviously, you know, all this required to be completed monthly. It's not a billable activity. Doing amendments is not a billable activity. Doing plans and assessments, although, you know, if you're a documentation specialist, you're not billing for that activity. The person's probably in your day program, which kind of washes there. But anyway, monitoring is not a billable activity, and neither is doing amendments for your plan, which are not paper, which I know you guys know that, but I'll just say it one more time out loud. You can actually amend on the ISP. Can be done in a clinician report. Your monitoring, of course, can be done on ISP or clinician report.